welcome back to the Yalla show, and we're going to be concluding with something that not a lot of people want to talk about, but I think it's important for you to understand, and that is heartbreak. So I know it sounds like something we don't really want to contemplate, especially if you are in a relationship, or maybe you've never been in a relationship and you're still thinking about it. What do you think is the number one reason for people in our generation, from our community, break up?
I would say lack of communication.
Okay.
This is something that I noticed between most people that they don't want to put the effort and they don't communicate openly.
Do you mind if I ask you, Marwa, if you feel comfortable to share, the last breakup you had and why that was?
I would say trust issues, and again communication. When the person is not open and not trustworthy, then things won't work out.
What do you mean by trust issues?
They claim to be the person that they're not, depending on the shape or the person that you're looking for, because they don't want to be rejected, because they think that you are suitable to them, but not considering your opinion or your input about the relationship. And they assume that by time they can change, or you would basically compromise and be okay with the differences that both parties have.
So it sounds like from the get-go there's incompatibility. How do you reconcile that, or how do you break up on a good note?
It's hard to break, because especially when someone took you for granted or misused the trust that was supposed to be there in the beginning. It's hard to kind of respect them, but at the end of the day you act upon your values and your ethics and your beliefs. So from my end, I tried my best to be respectful and just end things in a way that that person does not basically make me happy anymore. That person we're not suitable, and then khalas. Yeah.
No, that's very important.
Yeah.
It's very important to reflect and acknowledge what makes you happy and what doesn't.
Exactly.
And I'm also just very curious, because you mentioned trust. Can anyone maybe also share an experience where things didn't work out for them, and was it because of something else, or was it because of trust?
Trust is definitely I think probably the biggest issue. And you asked a question of why do you think that we end a lot of our relationships in comparison to maybe our parents. I think we're not willing to compromise on certain things. We have our values, and we want, not to say that our parents have no values, it's just they grew up in an era where you don't get divorced. You don't break up. Like, this is the person that you're with.
You have to suck it up and things get worse by time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we understand that, and we see it, we live it. So we don't want it for ourselves. And that's why trust becomes such an important thing. And we need to listen to our instinct, listen to our guts, and know who you are is probably the most important advice you can give anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's very deep. So it's a lot of it is making sure you're living your life for yourself and for your own happiness. And I am curious, because like this idea of, let's say, you picking someone just to make you happy, this is a very Western concept that's now kind of like integrated into our community. Because if you think about it, back home it's more of like a family-oriented things, like families marry each other. And I wanted to kind of just gauge with the rest of you, is that, do you think that the two kind of affect each other, and how do they affect each other?
I mean, it's so different now. Like, I just don't see much of that benefit anymore of marrying for the purpose of building a stronger bond between both families.
Why?
Because,
if you don't mind me asking.
I mean, for me as a woman, I just feel like I have as much power as a man to make my own life successful. So I'm not relying on a bond because my family needs that strength from him. Like, it's not at all the case. Like, I did my own thing, and it's great if we match. So I think it's breaking a little bit. I still see it back home. Like I still see some members of my family that really care about that, but
I think it's more, it's like, I don't know, here, from what I found in Canada here, it's a very individualistic society, and not a lot of people are, like, having two families marry each other is a huge thing. It's a beautiful thing where you can build communities based on that, based on, I don't know, I feel like when someone says that it's not important to have both families compatible with each other, I feel like there's something missing, and there's a core value that's missing, which is like growing this.
Yeah, I like that idea, and I think it should be more about that, just like the joy of bringing them together rather than dependence, because my parents need that, you know, it's not, so I agree with you.
And I think on that, the point is sometimes because they're too obsessed about the family and how well known they are, or merging both families together, that they forget about both individuals, that they have to get along first, and then of course it's a bonus and it's amazing to have both families get along. But what is more important is to have both individuals to get along and be happy, and then consider the family. You know what I mean?
One thing that I do want to take from my parents, like you said, parents, or you know, in their generation, they stick together even if it's not at all compatible. I think in our generation, it's sometimes the pendulum went completely the other way, where it's sometimes a little too transactional and like, it doesn't work, next, doesn't work. So I do think there are some things to take from them.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, it's funny, like
trying to make it work somewhat. Yeah.
The advice that I was going to say is, you know, be okay with being by yourself, and then find somebody else to fill that, not to say void, but like to share your life with, to share your experiences with.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, it's very important to, like what you were saying is, I don't think we've mastered it, and I don't think our parents have it mastered either, but there's somewhere in between, like there's this like fine balance, and you know, clearly we're not doing it the best way possible if we're all still single, or if there's this huge issue with millennials and dating. But you know, like I think there's something really important about sharing like family values, especially if like your partner, for example, like their families get along with your family, but at the same time you could end up with somebody who may not have a family, and then that's a whole other issue. And
that's true.
So how important is family compatibility for each of you? And you can just, let's say from a scale 1 to 10, just give me a number. Reham, let's start with you.
I'll give it a 8.
8, okay,
Yeah.
family compatibility 8.
Yeah.
8.5. Oh, dang.
But I think I can make it an 8. It doesn't have to start that way.
I love that. So like proactive. That's very interesting. So it could start off at anything, and then you can make it an 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at an 8, I'm like, yeah, we're good.
Okay, I love that. Cool. I thought you said 8.5.
I want to say 6, and I'm only saying 6. Like family's super important to me, but it's because I don't solely rely on that, because there's only so much you could do to make the family like you. If they don't like you for reasons that are completely invalid, like what are you gonna do? So.
Very interesting. Yeah. What about you, Mother?
I would say 8.
8. Okay.
Yeah.
That's like, so if you average it out, I like, because I kind of have the same exact like thought process as you, Reham. So it'd be like, it could start off as anywhere.
So up to 8, not
Like,
yeah, up to 8. My work is just like those marketing stuff, like up to 80%, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 80%.
Because there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a time where.
And there's always going to be, you know, the in-laws. Like there is going to be that, like, you know,
sensitive matter that, exactly, yeah.
Like they don't necessarily need to be like best friends, but like there has to be, you know, that mutual respect between the families, and at least that they can, you know,
this is a
have
lifetime
conversation.
decision. I think it is very important, yeah.
But now, do you think that people break up because of families a lot in our community?
Oh yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yep.
big time.
Why do you think that is?
Break up or not break up as well.
What do you
Because
mean?
like,
Oh, that's actually a very
Yeah.
good point. That's true.
like
Okay.
people would be scared to break up because
Because
of
of
the
family,
bonds and
yeah,
because of,
exactly. They don't want to
job
offend
and-
anybody,
yeah.
or that's true.
Oh yeah. I've had family members call off engagements because of like different religions, for example,
Yeah.
and both families were just not okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to wrap this up, I want everyone here, just to give one piece of advice for someone who maybe it's because their family broke them up, maybe it's because they were, ghosted or whatever, who's feeling a little heartbroken right now. What is this one piece of advice you can leave them with?
I would say it's okay not to be okay. And it's very normal to not have it right, especially the first time when you're into relationships. It's okay to be sad about it, and just give yourself some time to grieve, some time to reflect, and know what makes you happy. And if you don't know yourself, there's no way you can know who to choose and who you want to be with. So just take your time.
I love that, taking your time. Anthony, what about you?
Similar, learn who you are, love who you are, and that's the only way you're going to end up finding somebody that you're okay with, that's for you. And date for yourself. Don't date for your family. Don't date for your friends.
Yeah, very deep.
I think there's always, believe in faith. There's always faith that there's someone else, something better out there for you. And there's the good person or the beautiful, there's always someone more beautiful than that person.
For me, it's more, I just don't believe in the concept of, if you break up with someone, you think that was the one. I don't necessarily think that's a true thing. The one is who you work with, who you build something with together, that becomes the one. So if it doesn't work out, you can build something with someone else, and that's what love is. It's how you create that together. So, yeah.
So, heartache, most people go through it. And it sounds to me like we all agree that it's a journey, and there's different ways to approach dating and to approach, your love life. Whether it's taking your family into account, whether it's finding that right balance, it's a journey that you have to go through while, you find that special person. And this now concludes our first episode of the Yalla show of Arab millennials talk about dating, love, and everything in between.